make sure that people understand I'm not just being chauvinistic. I always loved Paris, but Paris has no real bearing on how you can make progress, because Paris was this case where they bulldozed a bunch of bad planning after it had taken place, and that's just very costly, and it's just not going to happen again. But New York is just the proof that if you just make a little bit of a plan in advance, amazing things can come out of it. So I was being a little bit facetious about wishing I didn't live here. I may not have known about the 1811 plan if I hadn't moved here. And there's some texture you pick up. I try to tell people that, like sweatshops in Bangladesh. I mean, New York was sweatshops and, fires and deaths 100 years ago. So if you're willing to take the long run, it doesn't take that long to get from Bangladesh to what we have now. And you understand that if you walk past the building where the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire was, and that was a sweatshop in one of these buildings. So that was a plus too. It's a city that welcomed millions of immigrants, including from outside the United States. So you really couldn't, I think, pick a better model. So you know how I sell it? I call it the Burning Man approach to urbanization. And it's just, you go stake out where the roads are going to be, and you just let people come and sort of do their thing. It's Burning Man. Oh yeah, cool, I get it. Yeah, but it's really the 1811 plan.
Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Romer. My name is Yong-Sung Chang with Mail Business Newspaper based in Seoul, Korea. I would like to ask you about Korean economy. What's happening now is there are a lot of recent talks going on about opening up of North Korea. What do you think this kind of opening up of North Korea would have effect on Korean economy? Thank you.
So, again, my job is to just try and describe the facts. The facts that many people are familiar with in, say, kind of intellectual progressive circles are that if you let a small number of immigrants come in to a society, they can be assimilated into the society. It grows stronger. Its character doesn't change. But if you think about what the physicists will call a thought experiment, and you let the rate of inflow get bigger and bigger, you can see that there's some logic to some possibility that if too many people come in too fast, it could undermine the things that people value in their existing society. So we need to understand that even though low levels of immigration can be accommodated with really no problem at all, very rapid rates of immigration could be destabilizing. And arrangements that people make to accommodate big flows, like treating the immigrants as having different legal rights than other citizens, can also be very disruptive. So I think we need to all understand that this challenge we're confronting of hundreds of millions of people who say they'd like to move from the place where they currently live. It could well be billions, but at least hundreds of millions of people who want to move. It's not going to be an easy process to accommodate that. And I'm generalizing from the South Korean case to the world, but I think it's the same problem we see all over the world. Some of you may know I proposed something called charter cities, which was a different kind of political structure for creating places that could do what New York did before. I think the verdict on that is it's the worst idea that has come along, except for all the others. And people are now kind of coming back to this idea that you can think of it as being a little bit like Hong Kong in the way that it could accommodate millions of people from China. I think there's some more appreciation that something like this kind of structure might be helpful, and it's not a great solution. Nobody likes it, but it's like you got to ask, well, compared to what? Yeah, I don't think I can say any more than that. But I think there should be a plan for what to do if any economy is facing an inflow of 10 or 20 million people. It sounds extreme, but it's not a remote possibility at all. And we need to really think seriously, what would we do? There's a lot of indications of things you can do that are not going to work, including things that could actually destroy the political culture in your country. So for a period of, after I sold the software company, I was trying to figure out what else to do. I took flying lessons, fly a plane, which I loved. My flight instructor once said to me, if you ever find yourself saying to yourself, this will probably turn out okay, land the plane. His point was that when you say, well, this will probably turn out okay when things are starting to deteriorate, you don't have a backup plan. And I think on these issues about migration, we don't have a backup plan. The United States doesn't. I mean, just think about the turmoil in Venezuela right now. What if there were millions of people who need to go someplace in a hurry out of Venezuela? Or, violence in Central America, or, there's all kinds of things that could create large flows like Europe has confronted. Nobody's got a humane, thoughtful plan about how could we help people who are in such need without jeopardizing the social and political systems that we have. So it's a very important practical topic, and we need to think about it.
Yeah. So again, this is a question from a reporter who's tuning into the live webcast, Steve Matthews at Bloomberg. Dr. Romer, you wrote a paper called "The Trouble with Macroeconomics," critiquing that there's too much focus on esoteric measures. Can you provide an update on your current views on this paper and the state of macroeconomics?
When Woodrow Wilson was the president of Princeton, somebody asked him, how long does it take you to prepare a speech? And he said, well, if it's a 10-minute speech, it takes all of 2 weeks. It's a 30-minute speech, I can do it in a week. And if you want 2 hours, I'm ready now. So I could give you 2 hours on macroeconomics, but I don't think that's what you want or anybody needs. That's a complicated topic, but the way to put it in the context of this larger discussion is that we have to be very strict with ourselves and our colleagues and adopt this zero tolerance attitude for anything that even hints of a lack of intellectual integrity. And this is not like fraud, like somebody's trying to fake the data or something, but it's a lack of vigor in pushing to see, is this really right? Might be my friend, might be my former kind of colleague, but if I think it might be wrong, it's my job to say it's wrong. And we got to do that, and we got to preserve a culture where that's okay. That's part of the job. But to do it in a way where we can show everybody, you can disagree very explicitly and very bluntly, but do it in a way which is respectful of the other person and with full understanding that you could be wrong. And that's the kind of exercise that I tried to engage in with that paper. And what's interesting is I thought I might have been wrong. I may have been, I thought I was too harsh. Maybe on macroeconomics. I thought I was saying it exactly the way I saw it, but I realized I might be wrong. What surprised me is that I haven't gotten any, critiques back that are responsive to the things I said.
One more question from the room.
Can we get one from the back?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hi, Aaron Raymond, AFP. Just in the shortest...
What's AFP?
AFP, Agence France Presse.
Ah, okay.
In the shortest amount of time, can you give us a high-level view of why you won this prize? What is your research really in the shortest amount of time for a general audience, if you would?
Under 10 minutes? That'll take a month to get ready.
30 seconds.
Twain didn't, but is thought to have sent in this submission note about his manuscript that, I would have written less, but I didn't have the time. So, the facts are that after a 10-year gap following Bill's work, I was kind of alone in starting to ask these questions about what kind of a good is an idea? What does it mean to say we produce ideas or we trade ideas? How is that different from corn or steel? And that analysis of the economics of ideas grew into this understanding of why things are speeding up that involves this more effective teamwork of billions of people all trying to push forward the frontiers of knowledge. And it has practical implications for both globalization and for things like science policy towards how we train the next generation of students. So it isn't just an ivory tower kind of activity. It's a kind of disciplined inquiry that matters for decisions we have to make. That was probably twice as long as you wanted.
Paul, do you have time for one more? How are we doing?
Sure, if you'll pick,
We have one from.
Yeah, another one that's come in from Twitter. This is from Trisha Bazoo at BizEd Magazine. How do you hope that your research focus on impacting urban policy will translate to the business and economics classroom to influence the teaching of future business leaders?
I alluded before to this notion of scale, that when you can think of scales the way like physicists do, like powers of 10 or something like that. What I discovered in trying to teach about urban, both at Stanford and here, is that it operates at a scale which is beyond the scale that almost anybody who's getting an MBA will engage. Firms, even the biggest firms, are not even close to what cities are like. So there, for some students, it was a kind of intellectual inquiry that they appreciated, and as voters and citizens, it will help. But to be honest, it isn't the kind of practical, usable knowledge for somebody who's going to go into business that we provide in something like an accounting course or finance courses. So there are some overlaps in things like how you manage large organizations, but cities are different enough that they really deserve their own kind of inquiry and even training courses. And this is part of what the Marion Institute is doing, is thinking about the research and the practical demonstration. Here's what you can do in a city if you want to accommodate like very rapid inflows. And it involves a much more laissez-faire kind of style than is common in most businesses. What cities need right now is big plans, like very big plans. Plans like the plan in 1811, which was for a 7-fold expansion of the built area in New York City. You can't have a big plan that's also micromanaging or in a lot of details. It can't be complicated. So to have big plans, they got to be simple, and you got to rely on people to fill in a lot of the details. And that's really not the way that's not indicative of the kind of problems that most people in businesses face. So